Hello, my name is Ali, and welcome to my channel. We are back with Hakuoki, Kyoto, and Saito's route. Let's go. I decided to remain at the Hamagiri Gate with Saito. Before long, the rest of the Shinsengumi was gone, and it was time for us to begin our own mission. First, we must speak with the Aizu, and on behalf of the Shinsengumi. In all the excitement, I completely forgot that the Shinsengumi were ordered to stay with the reserves. Instead, we'd chosen to march to battle. Saito was probably right to try to smooth things over with the Aizu as soon as possible.
If you like, I can take care of that. I imagine recent events have thrown their commanders into confusion. They shouldn't impede us. Okay, then I will leave the task to you, Yamazaki. Send word for me if you encounter any difficulty.
Bye! Yamazaki bowed once and then turned on his heel and disappeared. And so did we. The end. The area near the Hamagiri Gate was filled with warriors. I could see some men from the Aizu domain, and perhaps some men from the Satsuma as well. They appeared to be arguing over something. We'd been looking around the area to get the lay of the land when we sensed something unpleasant and went to investigate. That was when we found the confrontation between the Aizu and the Satsuma. What are they arguing about?
I assume it is over who will take the credit for this battle. How petty.
Oh. The words were barely out of my mouth when one of the Satsuma men noticed us. The words, only one word. Derp.
Wait, is that the Shinsengumi? Really? You know they're a bunch of filthy peasants, right? Hear that, boys? The Aizu are too scared to fight if they don't have some Ronin bums to back them up.
What? I could see the faces of the Shinsengumi stiffen, and more than one hand moved toward a sword. Saito, however, was as implacable as ever.
Ignore them. You have a job to do.
He swept his cool gaze slowly over the men, looking each man in the eye. They shifted restlessly, but their hands dropped from their swords.
Hey Satsuma, you son of a bitch! How dare you mock us, Aizu?
His face was bright red, and his sword shook as he held it at the ready. If something wasn't done soon, the sword was likely to start spilling blood. It's Amagiri, I think. Right? That was his name? Amagiri? Before anyone from the Satsuma could respond, a tall man stepped through them and out into the space between the two factions.
My bad. What? You'll face me? Then taste my steel!
With a yell, I swallowed something weird. With a yell, the soldier threw himself forward, raising his sword to anticipate a deadly cut. Saito dashed forward almost too fast to see and stopped before the charging men.
Stop. He's far too strong for you.
What did I do with his voice? I don't know, but I'm just going to do the voice that I'm doing for... Who is it that I have the weird voice for? In the other game. I don't remember. Oh wait, it was Killian in Mystic Destinies. Give him that one.
I apologize for the trouble we caused at the inn. I believe I had a duel with a boy named Toto. If his injury isn't healed yet, please tell him that I apologize for not showing more restraint.
I don't know why I gave him... Whatever.
It was you who defeated Toto, then? Yes, I suppose that would fit.
If Saito had even heard the man's apology, he showed no sign of it.
I imagine the Satsuma sent you to the inn as spies to learn what the Choshu were planning.
The man simply shrugged and tilted his head to the side almost quizzically. Saito took a step toward him. Ching! Ah! The tip of Saito's sword was only a hair's breadth from the man's forehead. He drew it so fast I saw no blur of silver as it left his scabbard. Unperturbed, the man glanced down at Saito.
The Shinsengumi has unfinished business with you. Maybe not today, but Toto will have his revenge.
Perhaps, but I have no reason to fight the Shinsengumi today.
He replied as calmly as if they had been enjoying tea together. Saito said nothing, and his sword did not move. I know I did a terrible accent, but whatever. Was Saito really that angry? I could certainly see why he would have been, but this was not the time to settle grudges. Still, he was a tough man to read. What was I to do? We are going to, of course, trust our man. Trust Saito. Saito was also well aware of his duties, and was not the sort of man to allow emotion to compromise his decisions, as shown by his ordering his men to stand down after being grievously insulted. I didn't know what it was, but he had a plan. He must have somehow sensed my decision, because for a moment his eyes flicked to me and he smiled. Ooh, look at that.
I have no interest in escalating the situation. Our goals are the same. However, we cannot overlook any further insults. If you persist with the Aizu domain, and the Shinsengumi will have no choice but to take action.
The tall man from the Satsuma nodded deeply.
It is true, our speech and conduct was becoming. My apologies. On behalf of the Satsuma domain.
Saito returned the man's nod, and slid his sword back into its scabbard. The Satsuma men seemed displeased on how things turned out, but whoever the tall man was, none of them dared to speak out against him. Now I understood what Saito had intended to do. By forcing the Satsuma to apologize, he had allowed the Aizu to save face. By directly confronting the issue, he had been able to avoid any bloodshed. Because the Satsuma man understood his intentions, he apologized. Regardless, I couldn't help but sigh, relieved that we avoided another pointless fight.
I hoped to avoid I also hope to avoid a conflict. I am grateful for you to you for stepping down. Oh my god, I can't freaking read.
He bowed deeply.
My name is Kyuju Amagiri.
I was right.
I pray that we will be able to work together when next we meet.
His introduction finished, he turned and walked slowly back through the ranks of the Satsuma, towering above them as he went. Saito, you never intended to fight him, did you? There was a short silence. Saito looked quailed inside himself, staring in the direction Amagiri walked towards before speaking.
I hoped that the display of my Ei would be enough to dissuade him. But it seems he saw right through my ruse.
Huh? Saito practiced Ei, a sword style that focused on drawing a blade and striking in a single stroke. Amagiri made no attempt to dodge his blow. How would he have known that Saito intended to stop just before the blow landed?
The Satsuma commands some very dangerous men. If they were not men of reason as well, we would already be dead.
I wasn't sure if Saito was talking to me or himself, and before I could ask, he turned and walked away. We returned to the Hamagiri Gate to await Yamazaki's return, but there was little else to do. After that incident, there were no battles. However, the tension remained unabated. Was it possible for the Satsuma and Aizu to find a common ground and coexist peacefully? Oh my god. It seemed like imagining such a world would be an impossible dream. The Choshu's extremists' attempted attack on the imperial estate eventually came to be known as the Hamagiri Rebellion. Although the Shinsengumi were called to action, their efforts were stymied, I guess that's the word, and they found little in the way of glory. Communication with their superiors was poor as at best. Shit, I can't read. And they spent much of the battle waiting for the reserves. When the Shinsengumi finally entered the battle, each man found several strange opponents awaiting him. Oh jeez. Chikage Kazuma, who defeated Okita Adiketa, claimed to be from the Satsuma domain during his encounter with Hijikata. Kyuju Amagiri, the man who shattered Heisuke's head guard at Ikeda, also claimed membership of the Satsuma. They had also met Kyo Shiranui, who'd fought alongside the men from Choshu. Jeez. However, whoever they were, it was clear they were not allies of the Shinsengumi. Indeed, it seemed they could easily become some of the greatest enemies. If they were to meet in open battle, the casualties would be severe. By the time the battle was over, the commanders of the Choshu attack had been killed in the fighting, or took their own lives. There were some soldiers, however, who escaped, setting Kyoto ablaze as they fled. By some terrible misfortune, winds that day blew from the north and fanned the flames, reducing the southern end of the imperial estate to ash. As a result of the Choshu attack, many imperial nationalists were executed. With the Hamagiri rebellion over, the Choshu were branded as traitors for attacking the estate. From then on, they were acknowledged enemies of the court. And we fade away. September 1864. Several civilian houses were burned during the rebellion. Kyoto needed to be rebuilt, but it looked as if the process would take a while. I did my best to look for my father while we were out on patrol, but try as I might, I couldn't find even a hint of his whereabouts. September 1864. Saito and his men had this particular shift, so I joined them. The heat in the city was almost unbearable, as if we were inside of an oven. Oh geez, not the cicadas. There was a group of people sitting listlessly at the side of the road. I stopped. They'd probably lost their homes in the fire. Saito? I try to read that part really fast because the cicadas sound is really annoying. Sorry, I had to get a drink. He turned around and looked at me placidly. Placidly? Oh.
Is something the matter? Are you tired from walking?
Oh, no, nothing like that. I was just, hoping to talk to those people. Would that be okay? They might know something about my father. He frowned just slightly. Is that not okay?
No, you can go. We have very little time to spare, however. You must be quick.
Thank you. I jogged over toward the small crowd of people who looked up as I approached. Excuse me, but I'm looking for someone. He's bald and... Okay. I talked to several different people, but none of them knew anything about my father. Was he even still in Kyoto? Could he have gotten involved in the Hamagiri rebellion and lost his life? No, that wasn't possible. He had to be alive. I wiped sweat from my face and desperately tried to convince myself that it was true. Saito was walking in front of me when he suddenly turned around and spoke.
Are you okay? You seem particularly hot.
Oh, yes, I'm fine. I didn't want him to worry, so I smiled brightly.
Very well. If you do feel ill, inform me immediately. I cannot afford you to be incapacitated.
Of course. Thank you. I knew the only reason he was being so attended was because Hijikata gave him orders to take care of me, but it was still nice that he was making sure I was okay. What about you? Aren't you hot? You're wearing black, and you've got a jacket on.
The heat is unpleasant, but tolerable. What concerns me is...
Is what? He frowned almost imperceptibly and laid a hand on his sword.
Kyoto's summer is very humid. If I'm not careful, my sword will begin to rust. That is my only concern. I hope autumn arrives soon.
He cares about his sword. He was more worried about his sword than himself, yep. It must be really important to you.
The sword is the soul of the warrior.
As he spoke, Saito pulled up short and turned to look at the building in front of which he stood. Oh my god. It appeared to be a sword shop. He was staring at the sword on display, his gaze almost hungry. It was like watching a child who just discovered a new toy he couldn't resist. Saito? He twitched a little in surprise and looked at me.
I apologize. We still have a good deal of ground to cover. If we do not hurry, we will be late.
Aw, he's like a kid at a toy store. He composed himself and walked back toward the rest of his men. He looked really excited. Was that a nice sword? He drew himself up a little as he began to speak.
It was a Bizen Osofune Kanamitsu, which I don't know if I said that right, but okay. Where are we here?
An old sword made between the late Kamakura period to mid-Nambokucho, I guess, period, roughly 1300 through the 1350, in the Bizen province. What am I doing? Many legends have formed about it and its uncanny sharpness. It's been a while since we had to use the glossary.
They say that the best swords are made in Bizen. If you buy a Bizen, see that it's an Osofune. There are many other Bizen smiths, however. They say that most of the swords in action today are in fact Bizen's blades.
Oh. Okay. Interesting. He likes his swords. He continued to talk about swords for some time. Oh, he is like a kid who has like a toy that he really wants and he's like obsessed about it. To be honest, I never saw him so talkative before. It seemed a little strange that swords brought him out of his shell, but it was nice.
Is something the matter? I don't recall saying anything amusing. Please don't tell me I've said something wrong.
Oh, no, not at all.
Then, if I may ask, why are you laughing?
What was I going to say? We're going to say, I think I understand. I don't really know much about swords, but I think I do kind of understand how you feel about them. I laid one hand on my kodachi as I spoke. I cherished my sword too. Saito's mouth twitched into a wry, genuine smile. Oh, butterfly!
Ah, so you find yourself drawn to it as well. Then I have no doubts it will be there for you. Then I have no doubt it will be there for you when you need it most.
His tone was as flat as ever, but there was a look in his eyes that I'd never seen before. It was different from when he spoke up in meetings and issued orders to his men. I am going to let you guys go here. I hope you are enjoying, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!